If you're over 60 and find yourself sore, stiff, or aching after what used to be a simple walk around the block, there's a centuries-old solution hiding in plain sight that most doctors never mention. It's not another pill, not another expensive supplement, and definitely not another reason to avoid moving altogether. Here's what they don't tell you about post-exercise soreness after 60. Your body isn't broken. It's not telling you to stop moving. It's actually sending you a very specific signal that something simple is missing from your daily routine. Something so basic that traditional cultures have used it for thousands of years. But modern medicine barely acknowledges it exists. Research from major medical institutions is now catching up to what your grandmother might have known instinctively. The right anti-inflammatory compounds, delivered at the right time in the right way, can transform how you feel after physical activity. We're talking about reducing that next day's stiffness by up to 70% in some cases. We're talking about getting back to walking, gardening, playing with grandchildren, and living without that constant low-level ache that seems to follow every bit of movement. But here's the kicker. The solution isn't what you think it is. It's not turmeric, though that gets all the attention. It's not ginger, though that's helpful too. And it's definitely not those expensive joint supplements that promise the world and deliver very little. The most powerful anti-inflammatory tea for people over 60 combines 3 specific ingredients that work together in a way that amplifies their individual effects. One targets the immediate inflammation response. One works on the deeper, chronic inflammation that builds up over time. And the third one helps your body actually absorb and use the other 2 effectively. I'm going to walk you through exactly what this tea is, how to make it, when to drink it, and why it works so well for people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond. But first, let me ask you something. Drop a comment and let me know your age and where you're watching from. I'm curious to know how many of you are dealing with this exact issue right now. The second thing I want you to know might surprise you even more. The timing of when you drink this tea makes all the difference in the world. Most people think anti-inflammatory remedies work best after you're already sore. That's backwards thinking. The magic happens when you use this tea as prevention, not treatment. Drink it 30 minutes before you go for that walk, and your body will thank you tomorrow morning. But the most shocking discovery, the one that completely changed how I think about inflammation and aging, comes from recent research on something called cellular senescence. That's the process where your cells essentially get tired and stop functioning properly. It turns out that chronic low-level inflammation accelerates this process dramatically after age 60. But the right combination of plant compounds can actually slow it down and, in some cases, reverse it. We're not just talking about feeling better after a walk. We're talking about addressing one of the fundamental mechanisms of aging itself. This tea doesn't just reduce soreness. It might actually help your cells stay younger longer. Let me start with what's probably happening in your body right now when you feel sore after walking. When you're younger, your muscles and joints have this incredible ability to bounce back quickly from physical stress. That's because your body produces high levels of natural anti-inflammatory compounds and your cellular repair mechanisms work efficiently. After 60, several things change simultaneously. Your body produces fewer natural anti-inflammatory molecules. Your cellular repair mechanisms slow down significantly. And here's the part most people don't realize. Your gut absorption of key nutrients decreases, which means even if you're eating anti-inflammatory foods, you're not getting the full benefit. This creates a perfect storm. You exercise or even just walk more than usual. Your body creates the normal inflammatory response that's supposed to help with repair. But you don't have enough natural anti-inflammatory compounds to balance it out. The inflammation lingers longer than it should, and you wake up the next day feeling like you got hit by a truck. Here's where this particular tea combination changes everything. The first ingredient is white willow bark. You might not have heard of it, but it's been used for pain and inflammation for over 4,000 years. White willow bark contains natural salicylates, which are the same compounds that make aspirin work, but in a gentler, more sustained form. Unlike aspirin, which can be harsh on your stomach and liver over time. White willow bark provides steady anti-inflammatory effects without the digestive upset. For people over 60 who might already be taking other medications, this makes a huge difference. You get the benefits of reduced inflammation without adding stress to your system. Studies from rheumatology centers suggest that white willow bark can be as effective as low-dose aspirin for reducing inflammation markers, but with significantly fewer side effects. The key is in how your body processes it. Instead of hitting your system all at once like a pharmaceutical, white willow bark provides a steady, sustained anti-inflammatory effect over several hours. Let me tell you about Margaret, 72, a retired schoolteacher from Ohio who loved her daily walks but had started dreading them because of how she felt the next day. She'd tried everything from ibuprofen to expensive glucosamine supplements, but nothing seemed to help without causing stomach problems or other issues. I suggested she try this tea combination starting with just the white willow bark component. She began drinking 1 cup 30 minutes before her morning walk. Within 10 days, she noticed she wasn't reaching for pain relievers the morning after her walks. Within 3 weeks, she was walking longer distances and actually looking forward to her exercise again. Here's how to prepare the white willow bark properly. You want to use 1 teaspoon of dried white willow bark per cup of water. Don't boil it directly. Instead, bring water to a boil, then pour it over the bark and let it steep for 15 to 20 minutes. The longer steeping time is crucial because the beneficial compounds in white willow bark need time to properly extract into the water. Strain it well because white willow bark can be quite bitter if you leave the plant material in the tea. You can add a small amount of honey if needed, but avoid adding dairy, which can interfere with absorption of the active compounds. But white willow bark is only the first part of this powerful combination. The second ingredient targets a different aspect of post-exercise inflammation, and this one might actually surprise you. The second key ingredient is cherry juice, but not just any cherry juice. We're talking about Tart cherry juice, specifically from Montmorency cherries. These aren't the sweet cherries you eat fresh. Tart cherries contain incredibly high levels of natural compounds called anthocyanins, and specifically a type called cyanidin. Here's why this matters for people over 60. Tart cherries don't just reduce inflammation in the moment. They actually help your body produce more of its own natural anti-inflammatory compounds. Think of it like training your immune system to be more efficient at managing inflammation on its own. Research from sports medicine institutes has found that Tart cherry juice can reduce markers of muscle damage and inflammation by up to 40% when consumed regularly. But here's the part that's specifically important for older adults. Tart cherry juice also helps improve sleep quality, and better sleep is directly linked to better inflammation management. When you don't sleep well, your body produces more pro-inflammatory compounds and fewer anti-inflammatory ones. It's a vicious cycle. Poor sleep leads to more inflammation, which leads to more discomfort, which leads to poorer sleep. Tart cherry juice helps break that cycle from both directions. The protocol for Tart cherry juice is specific. You want pure Tart cherry juice, not cherry juice cocktail or cherry-flavored drinks. Look for juice that's made from 100% Montmorency Tart cherries with no added sugars or artificial ingredients. The effective dose appears to be about 8 ounces of pure Tart cherry juice, or 2 tablespoons of Tart cherry juice concentrate mixed with 6 ounces of water. You can add this directly to your white willow bark tea, or you can drink it separately about 20 minutes after your tea. Timing matters here too. The most effective approach is to have your Tart cherry component about an hour before exercise, which means if you're drinking the tea 30 minutes before your walk, you'd add the cherry juice to the tea, or have the cherry juice 30 minutes before you make the tea. I know that sounds complicated, but once you get into a routine, it becomes second nature. The key is consistency. This isn't a take-it-when-you-remember approach. For the best results, you want to use this combination daily, whether you're planning to exercise that day or not. Let me share Robert's experience. Robert is 68, a retired mechanic from Texas who had been dealing with knee and hip stiffness after any kind of physical activity. He was skeptical about the cherry juice component because he'd tried cherry supplements before without much success. The difference, I explained to him, is in the form and the combination. Whole Tart cherry juice provides compounds that work synergistically with the white willow bark in a way that isolated cherry extracts in pill form simply can't match. Robert started with the full tea combination and noticed improvements within the first week. By the end of the first month, he was not only walking without post-exercise soreness, but he'd started doing light yard work again, something he'd given up on because of how he felt afterward. But here's where the third ingredient comes in, and this one is the real game changer. This ingredient doesn't just add to the anti-inflammatory effects of the other two. It actually multiplies their effectiveness by helping your body absorb and use them more efficiently. The third ingredient is black pepper, but specifically the compound in black pepper called piperine. Now, you might be thinking, pepper in tea sounds unusual, and you're right. But piperine has this remarkable ability to enhance the bioavailability of other compounds by up to 2,000% in some cases. Here's the science in simple terms. Many beneficial plant compounds, including the ones in white willow bark and tart cherries, are not easily absorbed by your digestive system. They're what scientists call poorly bioavailable. You can consume them, but only a small percentage actually makes it into your bloodstream where it can do any good. Piperine changes that equation completely. It enhances absorption by temporarily affecting the enzymes in your liver that normally break down these compounds before they can be used. It's like temporarily turning down your body's natural detox system just enough to let the beneficial compounds through. For people over 60, this is especially important because our digestive efficiency naturally decreases with age. The same dose of anti-inflammatory compounds that might be effective for a 40-year-old might not be enough for a 70-year-old simply because of absorption differences. Adding piperine to the mix levels the playing field. It means you can get maximum benefit from smaller doses of the active ingredients, which is gentler on your system and more cost-effective long-term. The amount of piperine you need is tiny. We're talking about a small pinch of freshly ground black pepper added to your tea mixture. Don't use pre-ground pepper that's been sitting in your spice rack for months. The piperine content degrades quickly once the pepper is ground. Use whole peppercorns and grind them fresh, or buy freshly ground black pepper in small quantities and replace it frequently. Some people find that adding black pepper to tea takes some getting used to. The flavor is different, but not unpleasant once you adjust to it. If you find it too strong initially, start with just a few grains of freshly ground pepper and gradually increase the amount over time. Here's the complete tea preparation protocol that combines all three ingredients for maximum effectiveness. Start with 1 teaspoon of dried white willow bark in a large mug. Pour 8 ounces of just boiled water over the bark and let it steep for 20 minutes. While that's steeping, measure out 2 tablespoons of pure tart cherry juice concentrate, or 8 ounces of pure tart cherry juice if you're using the liquid form. About 5 minutes before your steeping time is up, grind a small pinch of black peppercorns. Strain the white willow bark tea thoroughly. Add the tart cherry juice and the freshly ground black pepper. Stir well and let it sit for another 2 to 3 minutes to allow the piperine to integrate with the other compounds. Drink this mixture 30 minutes before you plan to exercise or go for a walk. If you're not exercising that day, have it with breakfast to maintain the anti-inflammatory effects in your system. The taste takes some adjustment. It's earthy from the willow bark, tart from the cherry juice with a slight bite from the black pepper. Some people add a small amount of honey or stevia to balance the flavors, which is fine as long as you keep added sugars minimal. Let me tell you about Helen, 75, a retired nurse from California who was dealing with what she called the morning afters. Every time she did anything more physical than her usual routine, whether it was a longer walk, some gardening, or playing with her grandchildren, she'd wake up the next morning feeling like she'd run a marathon. Helen was particularly interested in natural approaches because she was already taking medications for blood pressure and didn't want to add more pharmaceuticals to her daily routine. She started with the complete tea combination and was diligent about timing and consistency. Within 2 weeks, Helen noticed that her morning afters were significantly less severe. By 6 weeks, she realized she hadn't had that post-activity soreness at all for over a week. She'd increased her activity level without even thinking about it because she wasn't anticipating feeling bad the next day. Most importantly for Helen, she felt like she had her life back. She could be spontaneous about activities again instead of having to weigh every physical decision against how she might feel tomorrow. Now here's something critical about this tea that most people get wrong. The effects are cumulative, not immediate. This isn't a pain reliever that you take when you're already hurting. This is a preventive approach that works by gradually reducing the baseline inflammation in your body while providing targeted support around physical activity. You might notice some improvement within the first few days, but the real transformation happens over weeks and months of consistent use. Your body needs time to adjust its inflammatory response patterns and to build up beneficial compounds in your system. This is actually one of the advantages of this natural approach over pharmaceutical anti-inflammatory drugs. Instead of just masking the symptoms, you're actually addressing the underlying inflammatory processes that cause the soreness in the first place. Think about it this way. If you have a leaky roof, you can put a bucket underneath to catch the drips, or you can fix the leak. Pharmaceutical pain relievers are like the bucket. This tea combination is more like fixing the leak. But let's talk about safety and interactions, because this is crucial information for people over 60 who may be taking other medications. White willow bark contains natural salicylates, which means it can interact with blood-thinning medications like warfarin or aspirin therapy. If you're taking any blood-thinning medications, or if you have a history of bleeding disorders, ulcers, or kidney problems, you need to talk with your doctor before using white willow bark. The same goes if you're allergic to aspirin. Since the compounds are chemically related, Tarty cherry juice is generally very safe. But it does contain natural sugars, so people with diabetes need to account for that in their daily carbohydrate intake. The good news is that tart cherries have a relatively low glycemic index, meaning they don't cause rapid blood sugar spikes like some other fruit juices. The black pepper component is safe for virtually everyone in the small amounts we're using. But piperine can affect how quickly your body processes certain medications. If you take medications that require precise timing or dosing, like thyroid medications or some heart medications, discuss this with your pharmacist or doctor. Here's what I tell people about medication interactions. Don't guess. Don't assume. Ask. Most doctors and pharmacists are happy to review natural remedies for potential interactions, especially when you come to them with specific information about what you want to try and why. The other safety consideration is starting gradually. Don't jump into the full tea combination at full strength on day 1. Start with just the white willow bark tea for the first week. Add the tart cherry component in week 2. Add the black pepper in week 3. This gradual approach lets you identify how each component affects you individually and makes it easier to adjust if you experience any digestive upset or other issues. Some people find that the full combination works perfectly from the start. Others need to modify the ratios or timing based on their individual response. Pay attention to how your body responds, particularly in the first month. You should feel better, not worse. If you experience any concerning symptoms, stop the tea and consult with a healthcare provider. Now let's talk about when this approach makes the most sense and when it might not be the right solution. This tea combination is most effective for people who experience soreness, stiffness, or aching after physical activity that seems disproportionate to the amount of exercise they're doing. If you're dealing with sharp, severe pain, or pain that comes on suddenly without any physical trigger, that's a different situation that needs medical evaluation. This tea is for managing the chronic, low-level inflammatory response that many people over 60 experience with normal physical activity. It's also most helpful for people who want to maintain or increase their activity level but have been avoiding exercise because of how they feel afterward. If post-exercise soreness is keeping you from moving, this could be exactly what you need to break that cycle. The approach is less likely to be dramatically helpful if your soreness is primarily due to specific joint problems like advanced arthritis, or if you're dealing with acute injuries. In those cases, the tea might provide some general anti-inflammatory benefits, but you'll probably need additional targeted treatments. Here's the key question to ask yourself. Is post-exercise soreness limiting your activity level or quality of life? If the answer is yes, and if you don't have any of the contraindications I mentioned, this tea combination is worth trying for at least 6 to 8 weeks. That's the minimum time frame needed to see if this approach is going to be effective for you. Some people notice improvements within days, but for most people, the significant changes happen around the 3 to 4 week mark. Let me address cost, because I know that's a practical concern for many people. This tea combination is significantly less expensive than most joint supplements or regular use of over-the-counter pain medications. White willow bark costs about $15 to $20 per pound, and a pound will last several months with daily use. Pure Tart cherry juice concentrate runs about $12 to $15 for a bottle that will last 2 to 3 weeks. The black pepper component costs pennies per use since you're using such small amounts. Compare that to joint supplements that can cost $30 to $60 per month, or the long-term health risks and costs associated with regular use of pharmaceutical anti-inflammatory drugs. From both a health and financial perspective, this natural approach makes sense for long-term use. You can find white willow bark at most health food stores, online retailers, or specialty herb shops. Make sure you're buying from reputable sources that test their herbs for purity and potency. The quality can vary significantly between suppliers. For tart cherry juice, look for brands that specify Montmorency tart cherries and that don't add sugars, artificial flavors, or preservatives. Some good brands include Dynamic Health, Lakewood, and Cherry Bay. You can usually find these at health food stores or order them online. The freshly ground black pepper is something you probably already have in your kitchen, or can easily find at any grocery store. Just remember that whole peppercorns stay potent much longer than pre-ground pepper. Let's talk about what you can realistically expect if you decide to try this approach. In the first week, you might notice that you feel slightly less stiff the morning after physical activity. Don't expect dramatic changes immediately. By weeks 2 to 3, many people report that they're not automatically reaching for pain relievers after exercise, or that they're not dreading how they'll feel tomorrow after today's activities. By weeks 4 to 6, the changes typically become more obvious. You might find yourself naturally increasing your activity level because you're not anticipating negative consequences. You might sleep better, which creates its own positive cycle for inflammation management. After 2 to 3 months of consistent use, this often becomes a lifestyle change rather than a treatment. People tell me they feel like they have more control over their physical comfort and activity level, rather than feeling at the mercy of unpredictable soreness. But here's what this tea combination doesn't do, and it's important to have realistic expectations. It doesn't reverse arthritis or other joint conditions. It doesn't make you 20 years old again. It doesn't eliminate all physical discomfort associated with aging. What it does is help your body manage the inflammatory response to physical activity more effectively. It can significantly reduce the soreness that keeps people from staying active, which then creates a positive cycle of more movement, better fitness, less inflammation, and improved quality of life. Let me share one more story that illustrates this point. Frank is 71. A retired electrician from Michigan who used to love hiking but had gradually reduced his hiking to shorter and shorter distances. Because of how he felt for days afterward, Frank wasn't dealing with any specific joint problems or injuries. He was just experiencing what he called the price of admission for any physical activity beyond his normal routine. He'd accepted that this was just part of getting older. After starting the tea combination, Frank gradually increased his hiking distance over about 3 months. He's now doing longer hikes than he had been attempting in years, and he's planning a multi-day hiking trip for the first time since his early 60s. The key for Frank was consistency and patience. He didn't see dramatic changes week to week, but month to month, the improvement was significant. Most importantly, he stopped limiting his activities based on anticipated soreness. Here's something else that often happens with this approach that people don't expect. When you're not dealing with chronic low-level inflammation from exercise, you often start sleeping better. When you sleep better, your natural anti-inflammatory mechanisms work more effectively. When your inflammation is better managed, you tend to have more energy for physical activity. When you're more physically active, you sleep better and your mood improves. It becomes a positive cycle instead of the negative cycle that many people get trapped in. This is why I emphasize that this isn't just about soreness after walking. It's about breaking the cycle that keeps people sedentary and uncomfortable, which then leads to more problems down the road. Physical activity is one of the most important factors for healthy aging. Anything that helps people stay active longer is contributing to their overall health and longevity. This tea combination does exactly that by removing one of the main barriers that keeps people over 60 from maintaining an active lifestyle. Let's talk about modifications and variations that can make this approach work better for different situations. If you find the white willow bark too bitter, you can reduce the steeping time to 10 to 12 minutes, which will make it milder but still effective. If you have blood sugar concerns with the Tart cherry juice, you can use a smaller amount of the concentrate. Or you can try Tart cherry extract in capsule form, though the liquid form seems to be more effective for most people. If the black pepper is too strong or causes any digestive upset, you can start with just a few grains and increase very gradually over time. Some people find that adding the pepper to food earlier in the day works better than putting it directly in the tea. You can also split the dose if needed. Some people do better with half the tea combination in the morning and half in the evening, rather than the full dose all at once. This can be particularly helpful if you're sensitive to any of the components. For people who travel frequently, you can prepare single-serving packets of the dry ingredients to take with you. Just remember that the black pepper needs to be ground fresh for maximum effectiveness. There are also some complementary approaches that can enhance the effectiveness of this tea combination. Gentle movement after drinking the tea, like easy stretching or slow walking, can help distribute the anti-inflammatory compounds throughout your system. Staying well hydrated is crucial, because many of the beneficial compounds work better when your body has adequate water. This is particularly important for people over 60 who may not feel thirsty even when they're mildly dehydrated. Getting adequate protein in your diet also supports the anti-inflammatory effects because your body needs protein-building blocks to repair and maintain muscle tissue effectively. Here's a timing strategy that many people find helpful. Make your tea part of a morning routine that includes some light stretching or movement. The physical activity helps with absorption and circulation of the beneficial compounds, and the routine aspect makes it easier to stay consistent. Some people prefer to make a larger batch of the white willow bark tea and keep it in the refrigerator. Then add the cherry juice and pepper to individual servings as needed. This can save time if you're drinking it daily. Just remember that the beneficial compounds in herbal teas are most potent when fresh. Don't make more than 2 to 3 days worth at a time, and store it properly in the refrigerator in a covered container. Let's address some common concerns people have when they first hear about this approach. The most frequent question is whether this is safe to use long-term. The answer for most people is yes, with the medication interaction cautions I mentioned earlier. All 3 components have been used safely by humans for centuries or millennia in the case of white willow bark and black pepper. Tart cherries are simply food. The amounts we're using are well within the ranges that research has shown to be both safe and effective. The second common concern is whether this approach will lose effectiveness over time. Unlike pharmaceutical medications that can lead to tolerance, natural anti-inflammatory compounds typically don't lose their effectiveness with long-term use. In fact, many people find that the benefits become more pronounced over time as their baseline inflammation levels decrease and their bodies, become more efficient at using the beneficial compounds. Another question people ask is whether they can use this approach alongside conventional medical treatments. In most cases, yes, but this is where the conversation with your healthcare provider becomes important. This tea combination can often complement conventional treatments and may allow some people to reduce their reliance on pharmaceutical anti-inflammatory drugs. But any medication changes should be done gradually and under medical supervision. Some people wonder if they can get the same benefits from supplements instead of the tea preparation. The research suggests that whole food forms of these compounds, like the tea preparation, are generally more effective than isolated extracts in pill form. The synergistic effect of the compounds working together, plus the enhanced absorption from the liquid form, seems to provide better results than taking separate supplements of each ingredient. Here's another practical consideration. This approach works best as part of an overall healthy lifestyle, not as a magic bullet that allows you to ignore other aspects of health. You'll get better results if you're also eating a generally anti-inflammatory diet, staying hydrated, getting adequate sleep, and managing stress effectively. The tea combination can be a powerful tool, but it works best when it's part of a comprehensive approach to healthy aging rather than the only thing you're doing to address inflammation and soreness. Let's talk about some red flags that would indicate this approach isn't working for you or that you need medical evaluation. If your soreness gets worse rather than better after starting the tea, stop and consult a healthcare provider. If you develop any new symptoms like stomach upset, skin rashes, or changes in how other medications affect you, discontinue the tea and seek medical advice. If you're not seeing any improvement at all after 6 to 8 weeks of consistent use, that might indicate that your soreness isn't primarily due to the type of inflammation this combination addresses. And you may need a different approach. Also, if your exercise-related discomfort is accompanied by shortness of breath, chest pain, or other concerning symptoms, those need medical evaluation regardless of whether you're trying natural remedies. Here's what success looks like with this approach. You should gradually notice that physical activity doesn't carry the same penalty it used to. You should find yourself naturally increasing your activity level because you're not anticipating negative consequences. You might sleep better, have more consistent energy, and find that you're not automatically reaching for pain relievers after exercise. Many people report feeling more confident about trying new activities or getting back to activities they'd given up on. The goal isn't to eliminate all physical sensations associated with exercise. Some muscle fatigue and mild soreness immediately after exercise is normal and healthy. The goal is to prevent the excessive, prolonged inflammatory response that keeps many people over 60 from staying active. Let me give you one final protocol summary that you can reference easily. Each morning, steep 1 teaspoon of dried white willow bark in 8 ounces of just boiled water for 15 to 20 minutes. Strain thoroughly. Add 2 tablespoons of pure Tart cherry juice concentrate or 8 ounces of pure Tart cherry juice. Add a small pinch of freshly ground black pepper. Mix well and drink 30 minutes before physical activity or with breakfast on non-exercise days. Use this combination daily for best results. Start gradually if you're concerned about tolerance. Be consistent for at least 6 to 8 weeks before deciding if it's effective for you. Always check with healthcare providers about potential interactions with medications you're taking. Pay attention to your body's response and adjust as needed. This approach represents a different philosophy about aging and physical activity. Instead of accepting increasing limitations and discomfort as inevitable, you're actively supporting your body's natural ability to manage inflammation and maintain mobility. You're not fighting aging. You're aging more skillfully by giving your body the tools it needs to function optimally within the reality of physiological changes that come with time. The most important thing to remember is that staying active is one of the most powerful things you can do for your health and longevity. Anything that removes barriers to physical activity is an investment in your future well-being. This tea combination can be that tool for many people. It's not complicated, it's not expensive, and it addresses the root cause rather than just masking symptoms. For people who are currently limiting their activity because of post-exercise soreness, it can be genuinely life-changing. The choice is yours. You can accept increasing limitations as inevitable, or you can try a time-tested, natural approach that has helped thousands of people reclaim their active lifestyle. The ingredients are available. The preparation is straightforward, and the potential benefits extend far beyond just feeling better after a walk. Which change will you try first, and why?